UFL training camp is open, and the Birmingham Stallions enter the 2025 season as the favorite to win their fourth straight spring football championship. But the Stallions, just like every other team in the UFL, have some big questions facing them before kickoff in 2025. So before we start the new season, let's ask the one big question of each team and look at each team's odds to win it all, and maybe some predictions of my own at the end of the video. The Birmingham Stallions are the UFL championship favorites according to BetMGM, and easy to see why, as head coach Skip Holtz won the first two USFL title games and the inaugural UFL championship last year. There was a lot of excitement when the announcement came that one of those championship quarterbacks, Alex Magoo, was returning to the Stallions. The question for Birmingham is, assuming Magoo is the starting quarterback, can he regain that 2023 MVP form after trying his hands at wide receiver with the Green Bay Packers? Birmingham Stallions head coach Skip Holtz already has a really good backup quarterback in Matt Corral in the stable, but he will be looking for a third quarterback as Jamar Smith suddenly retired right before training camp started. The St. Louis Battlehawks are the second choice in the betting, and there could be some second guessing from the coaching staff if head coach Anthony Becht and company are unable to find a replacement for the departed one-time MVP quarterback A.J. McCarron. The Battlehawks opted to move on from McCarron in what ended up being a bit of a messy back and forth after the fact, but the Battlehawks have to focus on the present. Max Duggan might be the front runner to fill those big shoes. The question is, can anyone replace A.J. McCarron? Add to this the departure of Bruce Gradkowski to the NFL, which means a new OC and head coach Anthony Becht looking at least one head coaching job. And that was at his alma mater, West Virginia. A lot going on there in St. Louis, which makes me think this could be a disappointing season for the Battlehawks. More about that in a bit. The DC Defenders offense should be back to what the Beer Snake crew and the rest of the fan base enjoyed in 2023. Quarterback Jordan Ta'amu is back. 2023 star running back Abram Smith is back after a season-ending injury last year. And the addition of Lynn Bowden as a secret weapon on offense that won't stay secret very long makes this whole offense look like one of the most powerful in the league. The question for DC is on D. The league's worst rush defense has to improve for this team to succeed. Now, defensive coordinator Greg Williams always has a lot to say on the field, but his defense needs to do some of the talking in 2025. And maybe two Williams will be better than one, as his son Blake has joined the team as the defensive line coach. Well, the easy question for the Brahmas this season is continuity the key to success? Okay, now throw out the blanking they got in the UFL championship game. That was not the Brahmas team we saw all season long, and take nothing away from Birmingham in that game. Wade Phillips returns as head coach, and all 8 assistants from last year's XFL conference champions are back as well. Most importantly, maybe offensive coordinator A.J. Smith, and he will have a new starting quarterback this season, as Chase Garbers and Quentin Dormady are both gone from the Brahmas. Whoever's starting under center has one of the best receivers in the league in Jontre Kirkland, who will help keep that continuity going. Interesting that BetMGM has the USFL runners-up Michigan 5th in the odds this year. Denny Etling returns at quarterback for Mike Nolan's squad, and the addition of quarterback Rocky Lombardi could be big. My question is, why is this team not more highly ranked in the preseason? The Panthers have the continuity. Nolan's entire staff is back. Defensive Player of the Year Breland Speaks returns to the Panthers. Now, they had a successful season with almost no true home field advantage as they played in a mostly empty Ford Field. Hard to believe I'm saying this about a playoff team from 2024, that they might be a surprise team for some in 2025. The real surprise for me is how the Panthers might be overlooked before the season kicks off. The Renegades are a long shot this season, even though the King of Spring, Luis Perez, is back for another round at quarterback in Arlington. He had his best statistical season in his spring career, even though the Renegades won just 3 games. The question for the Renegades, can the defense step up to complement the offense in 2025? The Renegades' offense was at or near the top of every statistical category. The defense, not so much. Jay Hayes, who was the defensive coordinator last year, will share DC duties with defensive backs coach Marvin Sanders this year. Head coach Bob Stoops lifted the XFL trophy along with Luis Perez in 2023. Can this team get it together on both sides of the ball and maybe return to the postseason in 2025? The Memphis Showboats are the second longest shots on the board, but a retooling again in Memphis might make for an upset. The question for Memphis, will new head coach Ken Whisenhunt and the new general manager Jim Manos put the steam in the Showboats? A reassembled staff and the addition of former Michigan Panthers quarterback E.J. Perry, who was surprisingly released, well, he was added to the Showboats roster, along with Quentin Dormady from San Antonio, while Troy Williams is for now the only returning Showboat signal caller. Memphis won just 2 games in 2024, but this feels like such an overhaul that the Showboats could turn some heads this season. They seem primed for a huge turnaround. Not primed for any kind of turnaround is the league's longest shot, Houston. Now, sure, they blew up everything after a 1-win season. New GM Will Lewis walked into Houston and cut more than a dozen players and traded for quarterback Jalen McClendon. But the question for Houston, can head coach Curtis Johnson do enough to stay out of last place? He had some questionable play calling in 2024, and when Lewis was hired as GM, speculation immediately started about who would replace Johnson as head coach. Surprisingly, he is still with the Roughnecks, with a revamped roster and some new staff, along with a return to their old home at TD-ECU Stadium after a season in a mostly empty Rice Stadium. Maybe there's some hope in Houston, but if there is, it's hard for me to share it right now. So here are my probably way too early predictions for 2025, and now I know a lot of things can change as we get closer to kickoff, as we go through training camp. There could be injuries. A lot of different things can happen. So we'll keep it at that, and I'll hedge my bets, but I will not run the fool's errand of trying to predict the exact records, but I will try to predict the order of finish. So here we go. Here's how I think the 2025 regular season will go in the UFL. At number 8, it's Houston. As you could probably guess, I have little hope in Houston. I have them finishing last. At number 7, I have Arlington, and as much as I'm rooting for Luis Perez, it is hard for me to see a defensive improvement that will get the Renegades back into the postseason. At number 6, I have Memphis, and the Showboats might be my surprise team, and yes, finishing 6 out of 8 is probably not great, but I have a feeling we are going to see a much better team this season. I might get killed for this one, but there's too much up in the air for me with the Battlehawks, so I have them finishing 5th. The release of A.J. McCarron, the open flirtation with West Virginia from head coach Anthony Becht, the departure of offensive coordinator Bruce Gradkowski, the last-minute elevation of assistant Phil McGegan to OC, this all just leads me to believe that there are too many moving pieces to have the kind of season the Battlehawks fans expect. Now, I really underestimated San Antonio last year. Maybe I'm doing the same again this year, but at least I do have them as a playoff team rather than in last place like I predicted in 2024. So I have San Antonio finishing 4th. At number 3, I have the DC Defenders, and the Defenders might be the most improved team from last season. They were missing some weapons on offense. They needed some help on defense. I think we will see the Defenders back in the playoffs. I don't get why BetMGM had the Panthers ranked as low as they do, but I like the Panthers' potential for 2025. I see another USFL Conference Championship rematch with the Stallions, who of course I have at the top spot, because to be the man, you got to beat the man, and so far since spring football returned in this form, no one has beaten this man, Skip Holtz, in a championship game. I won't even ask you to leave any comments in this video because I know you will, but I do love to keep the conversation going, so let me know your predicted order of finish for the UFL in 2025. Check out these videos about some newcomers to the UFL this season, and be sure to like and subscribe for more alt football content. Also, visit altfootball.com for all kinds of coverage, including the UFL, CFL, indoor football, and more.